Welcome to Gardening with Daddy Pete. Let's join our host, Melvin York.
Well, welcome back. This is Melvin York, and we're going to continue on today with favorite vegetables. We were talking about green beans, and today, and the different varieties of the heirlooms. Well, just get you back up to speed. If you didn't grab a hold of the first part of this, you may want to go back and listen to that. You can do that on our webpage. We would love for you to take a look. It's daddypetes.com. You can go back and look through different archives and listen to those podcasts that we've done. And if you do have a question, we'd love to hear that also. Now, I'll back up just a little bit, and some of the variety of green beans, we're going to go ahead and finish that out in this segment. Old German was one. They're huge brown pods. They grow about 6 inches, 6.5 inches long. They're a full, rich bean flavor. Now, in green beans, what I call is a little weak tasting. They've got a good taste, but, there's just not that robust flavor that some people like. Some call them a little strong, some that. But when I hear of a rich bean flavor, that's what I like. I like to know that I'm eating beans. Now, these vines here, again, we talked about are pole bean variety or cornfield. A lot of people used to plant these bean seeds in the corn. We talked about it in the first part of this segment. I'll go ahead and catch you up to speed on that again. If you're going to plant these in with your corn, if you're doing row gardening or even in your raised beds, make sure your corn is at least 4 to 5 inches tall out of the ground before you plant the bean seeds next to them, and that way leave a couple inches from that stalk. Again, corn and green beans both are high nitrogen feeders. You want to make sure that you do supply enough nitrogen to produce these two crops. It's easy enough. The old timers did it and had great success, and they utilized all of their growing space by doing tricks like this. And there's more we'll talk about as we go on. Another one is a Deutsch Chambers. Now, Deutsch Chambers bean. It's a white, and when they call a greasy cut short bean, they used to use that terminology where they had just a little bit more. The beans itself were just a little bit more vibrant and a little greener. They call them greasy like that. This bean it's a very high producer. It will bear until frost. They usually grow about 7 to 8 feet tall. Again, this would work well in your corn. You can trellis these beans, either one. Old time Kentucky heirloom. That is a red seeded heirloom bean. Now, a lot of your green beans, you'll see a white seed. You can see a brown with a dark brown stripe. You see that in some of your half runners. You can see an olive color seed. You can see what I call a calico seed. There's just a different color seeds. This happens to be a red seeded heirloom bean. The pods on these are about 4 inches long. And again, the vines on these are 7 to 8 feet. So that, again, will make a great plant to go in your corn. Ollie Gobble, they're a great small type bean. They have a cream colored and brown molted seed, 8 per pod. They vine 6 to 7 feet. They're a very heavy bearing type of green bean with good flavor. Take also the striped pole bean. Years ago, we used to just call this just a regular old cornfield bean around here. But again, this is one of those seeds we talked about. They're kind of a light brown with a dark brown stripe. The pods grow long, about 7 inches. There's usually about 9 seeds per pod, and they will grow 7 to 8 feet tall. Another one is green golden hull. That's a cornfield bean, tan with a brown striped seed. They grow about 6.5 inches long. They have 6 to 8 seed per pod, and those vines usually get about 7 to 8 feet. They have a very unusual color pod. They're kind of greenish yellow when they're ready to pick. Great tasting bean. And what you look for in these beans is what I call the roast near or the mature state is when you pick them. You usually don't pick these beans when they're real green, because this type bean is made to shell and to eat like you would a bowl of beans, like we're eating beef pintos or whatever, but you cook them that way. And they're an awful good bean to say mix with if you have another type of green bean to mix and cook them together. But that does make a great flavor. Another bean that I think is really good, and it's the Dory Smith brown. They're a light brown seed. There's usually 6 to 8 seed per pods on these. Pods are only like 4 to 4.5 inches long, so the seed's a little bit on the smaller side. They like to vine from 7 to 8 foot. Again, but with those little seeds, they have that very rich, robust bean flavor. They're a great one. Another one of the old-time favorites that was been around for years and years is called the rattlesnake bean. They're a dark green pods are streaked with purple. So they're very beautiful pods on the bean. When you're growing them, the green bean is actually really dark, but you can see the purple streaks as it goes through. They grow long. They're about 8 inches long. They have a light seed, it's a buff colored splash with a dark brown. They kind of resemble a rattlesnake's color. It's got a great flavor to them. The vine grows vigorously up to 10 feet. Now, these will get on with the program. So, if you are growing these, you're not using corn. If you did run a trellis type on it, these beans would work well for that. These are 60 to 90-day beans. So at times, depending on the area you are, you can have beans as early as 60 days, some 90 days. But these are a very, very good seed. Another one is the Mayflower. Mayflower is said to be brought to North America on the Mayflower by Ann Hutchinson in 1620, followed by a long history of being circulated in the Carolinas. This productive cut short type has short pods packed with small square-like seeds. They're white, they're blotched with a rose color. Young string beans are prized for delicious flavor. Also excellent as a dry bean. This is a small type bean, and usually, though they do take a long time to produce, usually they're up to 100 days before you do start seeing the crops produce. So again, that is the Mayflower. Again, one that has been around. We can go back until the 1620 era, and so that's how long they've been hanging around. Duran's striped half runner. Again, we're talking about half runner beans. These vines bear heavily and continuously into frost. Pods are about 6 inches long. Again, they will have a string on these, 7 to 8 seed. They're kind of a cream color with a brown stripe. They're 75 to 80 days bean, but they do have the very fine string that you'll need to string before snapping or shelling. So keep in mind that is a striped half runner. Great taste on these. I like to do those into the green bean stage straight off. And I like to what I call shelly. Let the second round, I leave some of the first pick on. I let those grow until I can shell some and mix the actual beans with the green bean, broken green beans herself, which makes really good eating. White McClassen. The McClassen is a pole bean, very early pole bean. That it's an heirloom. It's 65 days, so that's something that's very early. If you planted your early corn, you want to use that for your pole beans, will be perfect for that. Go ahead and let your corn get up, and about the time it's to that stage, it'd be a great time to plant these beans. They reach about 8 inches long. They're very meaty flavor. They're slightly flattened, but they have superb quality. They're one of the oldest heirloom varieties, and a Southern favorite introduced in 1912 by the McCaslin family of Georgia. These vines produce prolifically throughout the growing season. Great dry or a snap bean. Seeds are ivory white and they're oblong and flat. So keep that in mind. That's one way to identify these seeds, and the green beans are by their vines, by their characteristics, and a lot by their seed. We got the old Joe Clark. A lot of heard about that. It's also called the red peanut bean. The bean's kind of pink. It has a kind of a peanut taste to the bean. It's real rich. It's good both for a snap bean. It's good to dry, or real good for canning. And it's also in the half runner variety. Small trellis is a good idea for more production. So they're not a real big viner, but they're more than just a bush bean. So that's something that you may want to take into consideration when you're planting them. You may want to do that. But anyway, that would be some of the characteristics that you do want to do on these. But anyway, with the that Old Joe Clark is one that you do want to remember. Will be your red-looking peanut or the type thing, and it is a pink seed. So make sure that you do think of those. One other one here is the Kentucky Wonder Pole Bean. That's an easy one to do. They're brown seeded, vigorous. You can buy those just about anywhere. They go 5 to 7 inches on pods, 7 to 10 foot, or 7 to 10 inches in clusters. Beans hanging down, so that works well too. They're a 58 to 64 day pole beans, so they're very early. And last but not least, we'll go with the state half runner, which you can eat them fresh, you can eat them shelled or dried beans. State half runners thrive under difficult conditions, producing a prolific crop of 4 to 5 inch long pods, full or fashion flavored. They're a white seed. Here's the kicker: these produce in about 52 days, so they can be planted even twice in our area in the Piedmont of North Carolina, 2 times if you want 2 different crops. And the last one we'll talk about is the Mountaineer White Half Runner. This is a tender half runner bean with a succulent white seed. It boasts terrific yields of the old-fashioned rich beanie beans, and the taste and smell is terrific. Pods are about 4.5 to 5 inches. Again, this is a bean that you will see beans within maturing in 56 to 60 days. So anyway, if you'd like to go back over and get the names of these, you can go to our website, daddypeats.com. You hit our podcast and listen to these again and write these names down. Or if you have a question or you want to ask about a certain bean, please do that on our website and we will answer your question. Well, for Daddy Pete Gardening, this has been Melvin York, and until next time, happy gardening.
Thank you for joining today's Gardening with Daddy Pete. You can check out our website at daddypeats.com for additional gardening tips and our podcast at gardeningwithdaddypete.podbean.com. You can also join us on Amazon, Apple, or Spotify.